What's up, guys? It's week 2 of brand new Fritz Cast 2022 business, and I'm wearing the same clothes as I was in episode 1. I wonder if that's because I recorded them on the same day. Who knows? That's the mystery that goes on around here. But for week 2, I have a guest this week because I'm pulling no punches and I'm not waiting on things. Full dive back into Fritz Cast around here. Excuse me. Still coughing, though. Excuse me. My guest this week is Dr. Travis Corcoran, who is a philosopher and liberal arts enthusiast who helps scholars properly pursue a self-taught education. Restoring Reason is the book that he's just written, using the ancient liberal arts to defend against modern manipulation. Excuse me. I'm still recording. Crap. How about that? Three, two, one. In Restoring Reason, philosopher Dr. Travis Corcoran demonstrates how the liberal arts provide us with a skill set to evaluate knowledge and draw our own conclusions for clarity, confidence, and freedom. Dr. Corcoran discusses and explains the trivium, knowledge, understanding, and wisdom, and the foundation it lays for making high-quality decisions for a high-quality life. This is a great interview setup, guys. And I implore you to check out the book, and we're going to discuss where you can find that and more in this interview. But it's a really great book, and Dr. Travis Corcoran's a really great individual and studier of philosophy. So get ready, tighten your seatbelts, because here we go. And guys, my guest today, Dr. Travis Corcoran. How are you, sir?
Good. Thanks for having me on, Fritz.
I totally meant to ask this before we started recording, but it is Travis Corcoran, right?
Yeah, you said it just right, man.
Okay. All right. I listened to a couple of different interviews and your presentations before we started today, so I was pretty sure that's what it was, but I slipped up before. So I'm very thankful for the time that you're giving me today to come here. And talk about your new book, Restoring Reason, which is using the ancient liberal arts to defend against modern manipulation. I think that's a huge topic to dive into. But before we get into the book, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your background, and kind of lead us up to what got you writing this book?
Yeah, of course. My pleasure. I would say education-wise, I did what might be interesting to know. I studied some nuclear engineering when I was in the military with the Navy, and then or nuclear power. Then later went back to university. I started my education in biology with the intention of maybe being a dentist or medical doctor. Even went and took the exam and was waiting to start medical school. And then, but halfway through, I switched from biology to philosophy. Still went in that direction, but philosophy became a big thing for me. After that, and learning a little bit more about the medical system, because I was following some medical doctors, I decided that wasn't for me. The medical doctors I knew and followed, they were very open and honest with me. So that made me change my mind. So kind of got lost for a minute because I had already invested 4 years education into all the prereqs for that. And then shifted, went out, worked in the field as an engineer a little bit. And then that's when I hurt my back, and I actually went to chiropractic school when I was helped with chiropractic. Not that it just helped my back pain, but like all these other things started happening with my health that there was just no explanation. Now there's a very clear, evident explanation. But then I studied chiropractic, and and now I've just really focused on those first 3 liberal arts, which I wrote the book about, just because I wanted to bring more reason into the world, more reason into healthcare, politics, which we certainly need, and into business and into relationships. But most importantly, Fritz, and hopefully this discussion, I'd like to bring more reason into discussion, to restore reason to discussions or debates.
Well, well, that's a very, very good thing. That's one of the reasons I was really excited that your people reached out because I feel like reason is very sorely lacking in the world right now. I feel like too many people tap into other things to give them that sense of direction rather than finding their own sense of direction. And I'm certain as I've been reading through your book, it seems you're the same way, where people are kind of looking for somebody to point them in directions than them taking their own direction.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that sovereignty, that free independent thought and critical thinking, I'm sure you've noticed as well, seems to be in very short supply right now. And it's a real shame because that's the one thing that can really solve our problems. I don't know any problems that are solved by emotional outrage. Most problems are solved, or any problem is solved through an understanding. I certainly want, if something was wrong with my car, I wouldn't take it to someone and they're going to fix it with emotional outrage or
right.
like discontent. They need to understand, how does this vehicle work, and they'll take the proper steps to remedy it. But it's not going to happen without an understanding, and that goes with the way our same with our social structure.
Right, and a lot of this, especially in the beginning of the book, you start focusing on education, and in you bringing up your own education, it seems you jumped around a lot yourself trying to figure out the right way. But one of the things that you say, education is part of this team of things that are manipulating us in one way, shape, or form. And do you think that education itself, just the structure of education itself right now is not so much of learning how to unlock those things in your mind, the way that you process things and the way that you make decisions? Do you think that it's just not opening that up and helping people expand on that?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. That's why yeah, that's exactly what I think. And that's why I was very specific in the book to use the word academia, because academia is now so formal, so entrenched, and it's almost like a non-education. It's not education, it's more schooling, and training is probably the more appropriate word now for what happens in the academic system. And that probably started, those that know, or anyone who's reading John Taylor Gatto, which I would recommend, knows that the Prussian model of schooling was first to like establish state allegiance or loyalty to the states, right? And then later, what transpired or happened or how that evolved was then captains of industry saw, well, if this really works to garner allegiance to the state, then we can also use this to create a good worker class, ones that are committed, devoted to working, not developing their mind, but like, yeah, performers, not thinkers. So I wouldn't say it's almost a misnomer to say we have an education system now. It is truly like a schooling system. We sit in rows, we move around at the whim of a bell. Information is categorized or compartmentalized in our mind, and we move from one class to the next, like Pavlov's dogs when that bell goes off.
That was a section that really resonated in your book. I'm going to quote on page 39 right here. Quote, they input, you memorize, and give them back the output, which matches the input to the letter, at least if you want high marks, which is just a good quip. In thinking about my education coming up, I was one of those types that was just very, very bored with the whole school system, mostly because of how regimented it was and how you just brought up there. I mean, it was something that you had to go to, and their explanation made sense. You go here because you need to get your education, because if you want to get out in the workforce and have a good job and be able to support yourself and in your life, you're going to need this stuff, and you're going to need to go to college regardless of what you want to go for. If you even know what you want to go for, you want to go and get your degree so that when you enter the workforce, you've got all the credentials, marked off, and you're being a good little person. You'll be able to get on that footing. But that's where it stops. It doesn't do anything else other than that.
No, I would say like your story, and probably the same for many of your listeners as well. Like this system certainly doesn't serve you or me, your listeners. It really doesn't serve many of us, but it does serve what I call in that book those five main institutions. And like just in your story right there, you can see how seamlessly they all work together. How academia works really well with big government, big corporations. They benefit greatly from us just doing that, not cultivating ourselves, not being innovators, but to be more take in the input, repeat it back. It'll make for a good worker. And like you said, I love the way you said that. You're just supposed to do it. This is how you get a good job. Yeah, but it doesn't give you the freedom that most people like yourself want, the freedom to think for yourself, to innovate, start your own business. Just taught, here's the capital of France, pay your taxes. It's the information that we're given in school. It really doesn't serve us like it should.
Yeah, it reminds me of a Steve McQueen quote. I think he said something along the lines of, "I need a purpose for why I'm doing something. Otherwise, I'm just lost." And that's how the world feels a lot right now with a lot of things going on. I think you pegged the big culprits well enough: academia, big corporations, big tech, legacy media, and big government. All these things are influencing us, and sadly, it starts with education. And would you, perhaps you'd be arguing this on the same point that I would. Do you think that because of what the education system is now, everybody, well, not everybody, but a lot of people are out there basically fearing anything other than what they know?
Yeah, I'm in 100% agreement with that, right? And that's what makes it so easy. And in fact, I agree with that so much that I would argue also that the the malevolent or malicious entities trying to deceive us, they know that better than us and leverage that fear because they know that it has that very effect. That when you're afraid, you seek certainty, you seek safety, and you seek it so bad that often what you reach for is worse than what you have, or worse than the thing you're told to be afraid of. Right? We're so afraid of everything, and what the solutions we reach for have been prepared for us, and they certainly don't serve us. I would argue,
No,
and
no,
I'm
and
not. Doesn't mean that I think everyone is. It's not all conspiracy theory and stuff, but there are certainly nefarious elements within these so-called trusted institutions.
right.
I mean, 100%. And to deny that is absolutely crazy. I would take it like to evidence just a couple of those institutions that we're discussing. Just look at, we'll take healthcare and some of the big corporations in healthcare. Every single year, one of the major pharmaceutical companies is found, guilty for scientific fraud, bribing scientists, or something, right? Billions of dollars in fines every year for these large pharmaceutical companies, right?
Right.
Okay, so we know that alone is evidence that the big corporations can't entirely be trusted. The people that we also trust to enforce them or bring them to justice, big government, has also failed, right? For us, and for that to be reported to us, we know that legacy media has failed us, and that these systems are continually filled with more people that defend it. That tells us that academia is failed us and is corrupt, and that you and I can't even discuss this in open discussion or debate on social media tells us that big tech is also in collusion, in my opinion. And that's just taking one observation about known facts from pharmaceutical companies. And you can take that and it alone will demonstrate how all five of those institutions work together and have a lot to answer for.
Yeah, yeah, and that's a big demon to bust. But with academia being almost the starting point, academia kind of starts this all off, doesn't it?
Yeah, 100%, Fritz.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's where the seeds are planted, right?
yeah,
In those, and it's not called like the formative years by coincidence, right?
yeah, yeah. That's 100% true, and that's something that pops in my head more and more often. I have a very very young daughter, and I have my wife is pregnant with one on the way, and the more this used to be a subject, I guess, that was kind of on the back burner in my head, because I was like, well, I'm past that. I'm doing my own. I can study, I can research, I can gain whatever knowledge and understandings that I want from my own experiences. I can do a lot of things on my own. So I
Yeah.
wasn't so concerned with, what's the next generation going to do, except now I have a next generation directly tied to me. And it's like, ooh, I know all these things that I hated growing up. I knew all these things that I hated in my life, and how can I make it better for their life? How can I foster an environment in which, they can get some of these core principles into them, knowing the uphill battle they face with all these other institutions around them.
Yeah, man, I really wish more parents would think like that, man, because I think that's the way forward. And it's easy for us to all talk about what's going on and what's wrong with the world, what could be better, but there's not enough talk about what the actual solution is. And for me, that's always going to come back to one word: understanding. And in order to understand something, you must practice reason. You cannot understand something from an emotional reaction point of view, right? That's just an indication of how you feel about what's going on.
Right.
Like I said, getting my car fixed is an emotional reaction will not fix what's wrong with my car, but an understanding of it will.
That's right. And that's part of the trivium, which you refer to quite often in this book, because it's about the trivium, uh,
Mhm.
in which you said understanding. There's a difference between knowledge and understanding and wisdom. Can you expand on the trivium for us and the differences between these three?
Yeah, and they go in that order too, actually. Knowledge being the first of those three liberal arts. There's 7 liberal arts in total, but I only talk about the first 3 really, because those three have to do with the quality of individual's mind. The first one used to be called, it was knowledge. Now it's called grammar, I think, in more like traditional terms. But knowledge is basically you've taken in some input or data, like every child does. The first 7 years of a child's life, that's all they do, actually, right? They're not asking deeper questions about that knowledge. They're just taking in data, and that's important. Just like your computer, it's got a hard drive full of data. However, that second liberal art, understanding, to me, that's where real power is. And that means you can draw conclusions, you're asking questions. And that's what, I mean, you probably notice in your child, I don't know how old they are, but around the age of 7 and 9, that's when they start to ask questions, right? They want to know, they know that the sky's blue, but now they want to know why.
Right.
They know that Santa comes on Christmas, but they want to know how. How does that guy travel to every house? And that they want, at that age, they want to start making sense, right? And then finally, coincidentally, another 7 years later, they're probably 14. So what we call in the US sophomore, the wise fool, right? Now they have such a sufficient knowledge base, which hopefully they continue to acquire knowledge like you and I and many of your listeners. We keep acquiring knowledge. Hopefully we're still thinking critically and asking about it, but we don't develop the expression that's the third liberal art, wisdom. We don't develop that third liberal art till the age about 14. Wisdom is the expression of your knowledge and understanding, what you know and what you understand. And you see that in like children. That's when they start like, I don't want to say rebelling against the parents, but they have a lot more to say. They begin to think they kind of know it all. Maybe they did before that, but it's not until that age that they start expressing it verbally. So those are the first 3 liberal arts: knowledge, understanding, and wisdom, or basically input, processing, and output.
Right. Right. So, as a lot of people are getting their foundations set, and it is specifically going around this, it's not giving people these tools. My next big question for you is, how do we get people to think in those terms and want to dive into it? Because as we discussed, fear is a big thing in the room. People
Yeah.
fear a lot. They're afraid to go against these things. They're afraid to even challenge it because they're uncertain about what the outcome is. At least they know what the outcomes are now.
Yeah. Fritz, man, that is probably one of the most popular questions I get asked, and probably the most profound and most important to answer. And this is my current thinking on it right now, that there are 2 things. How do we change this? How do we get out of this? How do we get rid of the fear? How do we establish interest in this? And I would say two things, and it's almost like they have to occur simultaneously. One is that people really must understand the difference between feeling and thinking. They're both constructs of the mind, but just because they're both happening in the mind doesn't mean they're identical. Feeling is reactionary, thinking is responsive. I have rational responses and emotional reactions. They're not the same thing, right? And once people understand that they're not the same, just because you feel strongly about something doesn't make it true, doesn't mean you thought critically about it. That's something different. And I'm not being dismissive of emotions or feelings. They're incredibly valid and important. It's just not the function they serve, right? Like gasoline is important for my car, but it doesn't steer the wheel, right? It
Right.
just has a different function. That's all. So once that's understood, the next thing is to, and this is why I wrote the book actually, how do we get people interested in this and how do we turn it around? I think, this is just my opinion, I think that people need to see how it's directly related to their life and how it would value them. People aren't interested in things unless they get something out of it. And so that's why when I wrote this book, you probably know, I talked about those 4 areas of our life that are really important: healthcare, relationships, business, and politics. And we could go further, but I just touched on these 4 areas. Like, how does studying the trivium, or those first 3 liberal arts, how is that going to impact your life positively in those 4 areas? And of course, many others. But that's why I talked about it in the book, because prior to that, I was always recommending the most incredible book I've ever read, The Trivium by Sister Miriam Joseph. And I'd recommend it to everyone that asked me about the Trivium. And it's the most comprehensive book. However, it's not very sexy. It's very dry. It's like it is like a school text.
Mm-hmm.
However, it is so good. It is so valuable, but people just weren't taking it up because we have shorter attention spans, or they can't foresee the potential value and impact that all of this would have on their life. So that's what I did, is basically I summarized kind of the Trivium, but really focused on here's where it will be of incredible value to you. But the beginning of the book, I wrote like what you're up against and why it would be important, and what happens if you avoid these things or neglect them. So to answer your question, that's what I think we need to demonstrate, that this brings incredible value into your life.
Yeah.
And without it, you're like a ship on the sea with your sail up, and just the wind takes you, hands off the wheel, and the wind takes you wherever it wants.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of things like on autopilot almost. Like I'll just go for the ride. I won't take the helm. That's where I found a lot of, I was drawing a lot of similarities between your book and a book that I had just been reading about addictive thinking and how the mind can, kind of, if you don't take control of your own mind, it's kind of like how you talk about analyzing your emotions instead of just reacting emotionally. If you don't take control of your own mind, which is a machine, it's part of you. If you don't take control of it, your mind can go anywhere at once, and you might just be a passenger on the journey to it, which could be, it could end up being a good thing. It could be a huge detriment to you and your development if you let it do, which is one of the reasons why I think your book was striking me so particularly, because I just finished reading this book about addictive thinking and ways that my own mind was manipulating myself, which when you dive into something like that, it kind of makes you take a step back and go, wow, there's a lot in my life that I kind of didn't, have in control. And, I think it's very important to put that out there. Beyond what you're talking about in your book, though, like one of the things that you say is knowledge is power, as a common saying, but you challenge that by saying logic is power. Can you break down the difference for us in that? Because we kind of discussed knowing something is only about half of what you can get out of it. If you can regurgitate knowledge, that's one thing that you can do, but do you really understand it from from what it actually means.
Yeah. Yeah. You hear it all the time. Knowledge is power. And I think that's so overplayed because knowledge can be correct or incorrect. It's not very powerful to have a bunch of incorrect knowledge. Furthermore, like just as an example, like the Pythagorean theorem, like we all know what it is, but that doesn't make me smart. I can tell you what the Pythagorean theorem is. Now you know it. Okay, but do you understand it? Can you apply it? Because without an understanding, it has zero value. And that's something that's correct even, right? So the Pythagorean theorem, yeah, it's correct. If you remember what I tell you, a squared plus b squared equals c squared in a two-dimensional right triangle. Okay, got it. How is that powerful if you don't understand what it means, right? Understanding is real power. And the reason is because understanding or logic is systematic, reproducible, stable, reliable, no different than addition, subtraction. Those things, understanding addition is powerful. Understanding procedures, process, something that's repeatable, reliable, and systematic. That's where real power comes from. And that's why I'm still got my fingers crossed for. We live in the age of information. Yeah, great. Can't wait for the age of understanding.
That's true. Yeah, because information is available at our fingertips at any point in the day. It's I can get anything right here on demand,
Yeah,
but what you get out of this, as you've stated, if all these if the big five are all playing intertwined with each other to manipulate our thinking, I don't think a lot of people think about how much this can manipulate your thinking, how much
yeah,
this can manipulate your very thoughts and even your emotions on a
yeah,
day-to-day basis. This can be a great tool. It can be the devil in disguise. It really is what you make of it, but it's how you use it and how you break it down.
yeah. And there was something you said earlier, Fritz, I thought was real good. Like about that book you're reading about addictive thinking,
Yeah.
like, and how often we don't have control of our mind. And there's the problem. If you're not in control of your mind, well, there are plenty of people who are happy to take it for you.
Yeah.
And and that's what happens. Like if you're not controlling it, someone else is. And if not someone, some ideology or institution, whatever elicits your emotions, because that's the quickest way to subvert your ability to think independently, right? Is to elicit some emotion, right? Because
Yeah.
there's nothing you can do. Even the most logical person in the world still reacts, right? It's normal and healthy to react. What's not normal is to not reflect on those emotional reactions, to stay stuck in that emotional reaction, and to operate and make decisions from that emotional reaction. That is when you've lost control of your mind.
Yeah. And that ties into something else that you speak out heavily against in this book is the wonderful world of self-help literature and a host of other things. There's apps for self-help and there's videos, series, and podcasts and all that stuff. But at the core of self-help, you speak out against this, and it's something that came into mind when I was comparing your book and addictive thinking as well, because addictive thinking. When I went into reading it, I thought this is just one of those like self-help book things, but it's not. It's not, because a self-help book, you argue, appeals to one's emotion and kind of change your emotional feelings about something, whereas a book like addictive thinking or this book isn't coming out and saying, change your emotional view of it. It's flatly stating that, this is something that you're not looking at the right way.
Yeah. Yeah, that Fritz, that was my favorite part of the book to write was I think there were like 10 or 15 like things I kind of criticize about self-help. I'm sure you can understand that doesn't make me like probably the most popular author to anyone in the self-help industry that uses those manipulative tactics or appeals to emotion, thinking that you're going to change something permanent based on emotions, which are never permanent. They flow like the ebb and like how you feel right now could change in 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 5 months. How you feel about your neighbors, whatever. Emotions are not stable because they're not supposed to be. That's not what they're meant to do. So it's funny that people seek self-help rooted in like controlling emotions, managing emotions, but that's yeah, I don't know, like a leaky bucket. It's not going to go anywhere.
No,
And
yeah,
that was the funnest part of the book to write. I probably could have done a whole book on that and a
right.
lot more than 15 examples.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you on that. And then it just resonated really well with me in trying to take these steps in myself. You know, I realized that in trying to make these changes, this isn't something where self-help kind of like presents this thing where, you know, hey, if you stick to this plan within like 3 months, you'll be good or
Yeah.
something. And in all honesty, when you break down something like this, when you're trying to change something in yourself, change your thinking, utilizing something like the Trivium, this isn't something where like you reach a point in your life and you're just like, I'm the guru now. I've got it all. I'm good. I'll never have to work or put effort into this ever again. And I think
Yeah.
that's a problem. We live in such an on-demand world of I get what I want right now instantaneously, exactly how I want it, that it's obviously plaguing the work that you're trying to accomplish right now, which
Yeah.
you're already aware of. You already know how big of a battle it is. I think a lot of people out there probably don't realize how big of a battle it is just because of how submerged we are in this world.
Yeah. Some people are just so I'll tell you I would say, maybe, I don't know, tell me what you think, but I would say the people that are the most entrenched are those that are highly credentialed by or get their livelihood from one of those one or more of those five institutions. Like I could like the probably the biggest critics of my book and what I'm espousing is or theorizing in that book or putting forth in the book are people that are deeply entrenched, credentialed by, and have their livelihood in academia or legacy media, big government. They will defend those institutions, right? And the thing is, I'm not really like criticizing the people. I'm criticizing the system and the structure that it is. Certainly, there are good people and bad people in both those systems, but yeah, it's funny what we'll do to preserve our conviction bias. You know, when we're so invested in something, we feel so strongly about it. I get my paychecks from it. I got all these big awards and teacher of the year, journalist of the year, or whatever it might be, right? Uh, Politician of the year or president, right?
Right.
You're not going to like what I have to say in this book, just not because I'm attacking you personally, but I'm attacking something you're fully invested in that needs to be evaluated.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm not going to butt heads with you on that. I honestly think, speaking as somebody, and I just recorded an episode before we even started talking. It's kind of like my, big return episode, in which I discussed some of the things I was going through. I fully believe that I'm a tech addict. I fully believe that I have that. When I said this can be the devil, there was a lot of time prior to this new year coming on where I wasted a lot of time on this thing,
Mm.
and not because I was willing to, but because I impulsively was submerging myself into a big tech world and social media and all that. And when you're trying to fight against it, when you're in it, and you don't view things as problematic. You don't view your own behaviors as problematic sometimes, and even become defensive when people are trying to discuss it with you on
Yeah.
another level. And so I know firsthand how it feels for somebody to say, I think you have a problem, with your social media or your tech usage or something, and to feel like, oh, I'm being attacked and now I'm going to get defensive and kind of butt heads with you and take a defensive stance and keep my ground. It's not thinking about it logically. It's not analyzing it. It's literally reacting with emotion and based on based on impulses and addictions that you might have, which makes things difficult. But that's life. Life's difficult.
Yeah. It's what you're doing though. I find that actually productive because you're actually being critical of yourself. You're evaluating yourself. You're not like that's what you should be doing, right? More people should be doing it like you are. You're taking a look at yourself. And when you're saying you're like, I'm being defensive when people talk about my tech use, that's actually good, right? It's just your ego doing its job, protecting or defending your perception, which is good. What I'm attacking is the institution of big tech, not an individual's use of it, but their submersion in being a tech guru or provider, being credentialed by that institution, and mostly social medias and stuff. But the users, I think I struggle with it too. And I'm not saying that the technology is bad, right? Because
Right.
it's how it's used. A lot of people say, "Oh, the television is horrible." Why? What the television does nothing. It's just a box of plastic wires and glass, I guess. I don't know. And but how it's used could be bad or could be good. Just like a hammer, I can build a house with a hammer, but I could smash the windows in a church, right? The hammer itself is not bad. Tech is not bad. I would. This is a big statement. I would even say government's not bad. However, the way it's used, leveraged, and exploited can be
Yeah.
probably the most devastating thing to our freedoms there is.
Right. Well, I'm sure you'd probably even go on to argue that while your focus is on these institutions, it's kind of it kind of goes back to the examples you gave of like a teacher getting Teacher of the Year award and wanting to defend academia. I think that you could still be in those institutions, but you've got to have that understanding and be critical where it needs to be critical. And I think that's a point that you're arguing here.
Yeah, for sure. And there's a lot of like, what's that guy? That Jordan Peterson. He talks about that a lot. That something I really agree with him and anyone that's an advocate for free speech. Whether I agree with you politically or not or whatever, I still like without the free speech, these institutions become so single-minded, so one narrative that any self-reflection or criticism is impossible. We need to have this free speech and the ability to discuss or dissent from bad ideas, right?
Yeah.
But we live now in a culture where these five institutions, academia being the core where the seed is planted, they work in such collusion with one another that they protect like really one narrative, and we're all suffering for it. Even those at the top who think they're so clever, we all suffer when we can't speak openly and resolve conflicts. Conflicts clarify, right? We need that to practice discernment. And right now, that opportunity conflict is an opportunity. Conflict of ideas. It's an opportunity to see which idea is better. However, in our culture today, there is, well, that idea hurts my feelings. So that one shut down. This one is a way to signal how virtuous I am. This one gets propelled or hoisted up, right? That is not a competition of ideas. That is the wholesale slaughter of one side of ideas to basically preserve the other set arbitrarily.
Yeah. Yeah. Almost lost my train of thought there. Hold on. So as we're discussing how especially the big five play into this, what you're talking about with the Trivium isn't just something to utilize against them, but it's also something that can be used in our lives in a variety of different ways, such as in our business lives and our work lives, healthcare and politics. So how can these be used in these aspects of our lives? How could me, Joe Schmo, learning about them, start applying them in these various aspects of my life?
Well, but let's just say in business, certainly in business, if you were to make an investment or a decision, you'd want it to be that when you make a decision, you want the knowledge about that decision to be correct. You want your understanding to be true, and you want to communicate it effectively, right? I mean, that's the most I don't know anyone in business that's successful simply because they react like emotionally to everything. Every business decision is an emotional reaction. That does not equate to business success. And can you imagine like taking care of your health in the same way? Like this belief system, I would love to believe, like, so emotionally, man, I love ice cream and donuts, let's say. Well, that belief system and those emotions and making decisions based on those isn't going to create health for me. I need to know what is a nutrient, or what is illness, what is health. I need a correct knowledge of those terms, and then an understanding of what they mean and how to achieve them. And then the third liberal art, execution. I need to act on that, right? No different with politics, relationship, everything. It always comes back to, you have problems in your life, you want them resolved. It's never going to happen coming from a place of emotion. Your emotional reactions tell you what the problem, tell you that there's a problem, right? There's something that needs to be resolved, or things are going well. Like when you're in a relationship and like you feel this incredible love, adoration, validation, and all that. The emotions are confirming that things are well, right? If you're having other emotions that tell you something's wrong, all right, well, that's all they are. The emotions are like an indicator panel. They aren't the way to solving the things. They just tell you there is a problem. There's a difference between the oil light in my car going on and the oil I'm going to use to correct the problem, right? They are separate. They are not the same thing. One will solve the problem. One tells me there's a problem. And we are being, I would say that's the biggest way we're being manipulated, besides appeal to authority, all the fallacies of relevance and red herrings, but the appeal to emotion. That is the quickest, shortest way to subvert the trivium, or that path from knowing, understanding, and executing, or communicating, taking action, whatever you want to call it. It basically skips the logic step. If you can elicit enough emotion, it shuts down logic. So people go directly from knowledge that they will not evaluate, and they cannot because they're in an emotionally reactive state, and they go directly to action.
Right.
Because they are spurned by emotion instead of like conforming to reason. And that's what the whole book is on. I want to restore reason to as many aspects of our lives as possible: business, relationship, politics, health. I hope that answers the question.
No. I beautifully answered the question. So, when it comes to your book and your work online, where can the people that are listening right now, where can they figure out more about restoring reason and more about Dr. Travis Corcoran and what you're doing?
The best and the easiest, Fritz, is just go to the website restoringreason.com. If you just go there, restoringreason.com, you can order the book, you can find out about me. And if you're still on the fence, or I don't know if what this is like or what it's about, you can also download the first chapter for free. Like, so there's no strings attached. In the first chapter, you've read the book. I think it gives a good like game plan, what's going to be discussed, why it's important, and if you want to read the book or not.
Yeah, no, I highly implore everybody listening to check out the first chapter of the book. Immediately. I think if you're in that setting that I'm in, where you're inquisitive and you really want to break into these things, knowing the problems that we're facing in the world right now, I think it'll definitely get people hooked on and wanting to get their own copies of Restoring Reason. And I highly implore everybody out there listening right now to go to the website and do that now. Um, Doctor, I appreciate your time. I appreciate having you on. I always give my guests, a final thought or final word. So I'm going to give that to you now before we sign off.
Just I would love to, how do I say this? I would love to live in a better place and in a better world, right? And the people, like, just like roommates, your roommates or your family, you want a good relationship with them because you live together in the same house. Well, just expand that. Well, we live together in the same city, same community, the same nation, we all live on the same planet. And if you and I both want a higher quality of life, then we have to work on the quality of our mind. And that's what I would encourage everyone to do. And that's what I set out in the book. Best of luck.
Awesome. Well, thank you for coming on again, sir.
Hey, my pleasure, Fritz, man. It was a great, and I'm going to get that book from you, that recommendation about addictive thinking that really piqued my interest.
Absolutely.